The movie begins by introducing a young boy named Eddie, who lives in New York. He was lazy and only wanted to write a book about his life. But he never completed this mission. Instead, he wrote something every day and deleted it. We don't see any other purpose in his life. He used to spend all of his time on his messy apartment. He even used to borrow money from his friends to meet his needs. As a result, Eddie's friend Lindy has decided to leave him. She was tired of his lazy behavior. Eddie, she believes, has accomplished nothing in his life and will not be able to do so in the future. We see Eddie outdoors later, and he sees one of his old friends, in the way who is a drug dealer. Eddie tells him that nothing in his life is going well. He wants to write a book, but is unable to do it. That's why the drug dealer gives him a drug and tells him that if he takes it, his mind will work perfectly. Later, the drug leader has gone from there for urgent work. And right after, Eddie was looking at that drug carefully while going home. He doesn't want to take that drug because it was illegal. But he thinks that now he has to take this drug for his life. That's why now he has taken the drug. Eddie's apartment owner was present when he arrived at his apartment. She was questioning about the rent and threatening to kick you out of the apartment if you didn't pay the rent. Eddie, on the other hand, didn't understand anything because he was intoxicated from the drug he had taken previously. After a while, his mind starts to work, and he notices a book in the lady's bag. That was the law, and Eddie said to her after seeing the book, "You must have taught from the law school." For a while the lady becomes shocked. Later, Eddie begins to remember everything. Whatever he has seen, read, or remember in his life. He recommends a book to the lady that was her field relevant. Because of the academic knowledge of Eddie, that lady becomes really impressed by Eddie. After she left, he had a lot of ideas for what he could write in his book. He considers his place to be a mess, and after taking that drug, he felt rather active. He cleans and arranges everything in his apartment, including all of his books and publications. Later, he starts writing a book, and for the first time in his life, he does an amazing job. He has completed 90 pages of his book in one sitting. All of this was made possible by the drug, which made Eddie very happy. Eddie, who considers himself lazy, motivation to get things done. Later, the next morning Eddie was feeling the effect of the drug was decreasing. He went to the editor for his last night's written book. He has given it to him for publishing. The editor was also shocked that how Eddie has done this all too soon. She tells Eddie that you should reread and review your book. Eddie, on the other hand, did not want to do this, so he put his book away and returned. He gets a call from the editor when he gets home, in which the editor praises him. Eddie becomes pretty pleased after hearing this. He decides to take the drug again, which is why he returns to the same drug dealer, who had previously given this drug to Eddie. He was telling Eddie that this is an illegal drug and to take it isn't good. But Eddie says, "I need this drug at any cost." The drug dealer adds, "Okay, if you need the drug, you'll have to do my task." Eddie responds, "I'll do anything to get that drug." After completing the mission, Eddie returns to the drug dealer. He learns that the drug dealer has been murdered. He wanted to report the police about this, but he thinks that he should find that drug in the dealer's apartment. Eddie discovers a large number of drugs after investigating his apartment. Later, we find Eddie in a police station, where officers are investigating the murder of a drug dealer. After inquiring Eddie, they tell him to be in contact with them. Eddie later goes into his house, and after going, he takes that drug that he has stolen from the drug dealer's home. His mind begins to work actively again after taking the medicine. His life had changed magically since using the medicine. He has a lot of knowledge again, and he begins to learn new things, in which there were different languages. He has learned piano. He was meeting everyone without being shy. He has become social as well, as compared to before when he used to be at his home. Everyone has been quite impressed with his knowledge. Before, Eddie thinks that he can't do anything. After taking the drug, he thinks that he can do anything. That's why Eddie goes into the stock market. Eddie made a lot of profit with the money he has stolen from the drug dealer's house. But he wasn't satisfied because he wanted to make more profit. That is why he goes to a man for a loan so that he can invest the money and make more profit. However, the man warned him that if he did not return his money on time, it may be terrible for him. Eddie, however, seized the opportunity because he had confidence in himself that he will undoubtedly repay this money after making a profit on it. Eddie reinvested the money in a company that has doubled in value. A business tycoon wants to meet him because of this. On the other hand, we see Eddie with his friend, who had left her at the beginning of the film, having dinner with her. The girl is happy to see Eddie because Eddie has managed his life and now she again wants to live with Eddie. Eddie notices that someone is watching them during their conversation. After lunch, Eddie looked around to see if he might see the man again. But it wasn't to be, and we find Eddie in his apartment in the next scene. He is lazy, and he believes Eddie is in the television launch instead of his room. He was shocked at how he entered the TV launch from his room. But he couldn't recall anything, and his friend Lindy was calling to invite him to dinner. Eddie, on the other hand, has a business meeting the next day, which I have already addressed. After meeting Eddie, the business tycoon was quite impressed. He was shocked at Eddie's ability to recall so much information at once. He hands Eddie a file that has all of his company's details. Eddie is asked by the business tycoon to read this file and advise us on what we should do. Eddie reads the file quickly and informs him what information could have been most useful to him. Eddie is invited to meet with the business tycoon again later. The business tycoons offer to work with him that Eddie has accepted. After meeting him, he was supposed to go to his house after exiting his car, but he didn't since he wanted to extend his knowledge after going somewhere else. But suddenly, he feels that he is about to faint. Something out of the ordinary was happening, and he had no clue about his whereabouts. He had the feeling of teleporting from one place to another. He sometimes sees himself at a party and afterward on the road. Now he was in a hotel, where he saw the man who was either chasing him or spying on him before. He later proceeds to a subway station after ignoring the man. He was encircled by many evil people. Because of taking drugs, he has many things in his mind. His mind was quite active and sharp. According to this situation, the scenes of action movies were coming to his mind. They were more in numbers, but Eddie has easily fought with them. In the next scene, we see Eddie in his house. The alarm rings that was to remind him that he has a meeting with a business tycoon. He wants to take the drug for the meeting, but he doesn't do, because he's afraid that if he does, he'll go from one place to another and won't notice anything. So he reads the file without having drugs, but he didn't understand anything in the file. He didn't want to take the drug, that's why he calls his partner that we should cancel the meeting with a business tycoon. His partner tells him if we cancel this meeting, the business tycoon will change his mind to work with us. We have only one chance to prove ourselves. That's why after agreeing with him, Eddie went to the meeting. After going there, he wasn't active and didn't understand anything. He was quite lazy and was feeling a disturbance in speaking. The business tycoon feels that Eddie isn't bothering him. Eddie also feels, and later they start to discuss the problem. However, Eddie had no understanding of the business tycoon. His entire focus was on the television, which was broadcasting a news report about a girl being murdered. Eddie recalls that he knew this girl. He met this girl at night when he was moving from one place to another while under the influence of drugs. That's why he didn't seem to remember much about her. After being puzzled by everything, he seeks an excuse from the business tycoon and comes out. He comes out with a stomachache and starts vomiting. His health decays, and he returns to his house. He receives a call from a girl who is the drug dealer's sister. Eddie agreed to meet with her and is holding a book in which the drug dealer has written all of his customers' names. He dials all of the customers' phone numbers. He is shocked when he learns that whoever used this has medicine died. They've died because of different diseases. Someone had a continuous headache and some had stomach issues. And some of them died because of heart attacks. Few of them were in comas. Among the numbers of them, Eddie finds the number of the one who was following them. Eddie, after escaping from the man again, meets the sister of a drug dealer who was his ex-wife. She informs Eddie that she was unconcerned about my brother's death, because I knew it could happen anytime as a result of his wrongdoings. She says, I wanted to let you know that the medicine you're taking isn't safe. I once used this. It feels good at first after taking this medicine, but as a side effect, people become insane. She tells him that there was a time I used this drug, but I have quit it. I'll suggest you leave this drug, but gradually, not at once. Eddie later departs and meets the man on his way to the bank where he has taken out the loan. He beats Eddie to take back his loan. During this situation, the drug from the pocket of Eddie falls down. The man, without thinking, takes that medicine and he feels good. Eddie has gone to the bank after taking him with, where he has to give him the money, but he said to give the drug instead of the money. Eddie, after giving him the drugs, comes back to the home to his friend Lindy. He tells her about the reality of the drug. Lindy is disheartened to hear about this, but she is determined to assist her friend. His friend also understands that if he stops using the medicine at once, it will be harmful to him. That's why she prefers him to leave this drug gradually. She takes the drugs for him, and on the way she notices that someone is following him. When she looks back, we come to know that he's the same man who was following Eddie first, and now that man was following Eddie's friend. She hurriedly goes into a park and asks two people to help her. However, when that man murders both of them, Lindy becomes worried and phones Eddie, who advises her to take the drug and, as a result, her mind will be sharp. You'll understand what you need to do in this situation. Lindy does the same and takes the drugs immediately. Her mind also starts to work actively. She holds a child in her lap who is wearing ice skates, and after moving the child on skates, the skates hit the man who becomes injured, falls down. Later, her friend visited her house, and she was telling that how her mind was changed after taking the drug. Eddie also shares his views with her and tells her that these are harmful drugs. Don't take it again, and I'll also leave it soon. Whereas we see some people have approached Eddie from outside. Actually, the man from Eddie who has taken a loan has sent them. Those people have to take the drug from Eddie, where Eddie has given them the drugs and he too has started taking the drugs. He didn't have any other choice than to take drugs because of the situation he was in. Eddie has hired 2 bodyguards because he believes his life may be in danger. After taking drugs, he arranges a meeting with the business tycoon that goes successful. He apologizes for his previous actions and states that it's possible I wasn't feeling well. Eddie, on the other hand, was holding meetings with other people after meeting with a business tycoon. These all were successful because of Eddie. Eddie has realized that if he gets enough sleep while on this drug, drinks enough water, and avoiding alcohol, he will be able to recover quickly. Eddie later encounters a chemist who he had asked to reverse the effect of this drug. Eddie is approached by a police officer who has doubts about Eddie's involvement in the case of that drug dealer. Eddie has engaged a lawyer to help him get out of this case. This lawyer temporarily frees Eddie from this case by saying that the police doesn't have all the evidence from they could prove that Eddie is a killer. Later, we see Eddie and the business tycoon meet with another business tycoon of the city, who was an old man with poor health. Their meeting goes successful, and in the next scene, Eddie was shown in his apartment. There everything was scattered, which means someone has visited his apartment and has checked his apartment. This all was surely happened because of that drugs. Later, Eddie buys a new apartment in which a high security system was. In the next scene, Eddie was meeting the man who at the beginning of the film, who has given loan to Eddie. Eddie knows that the man is also taking the drugs that Eddie is taking, and he is blackmailing Eddie. to give me more drugs, otherwise I'll send you to jail forever. Based on the evidence, it is alleged that you committed the murder of the drug dealer. The following day, Eddie's company tycoon holds a business meeting with an old business tycoon. The old business tycoon was not present in the meeting, indicating that he did not attend. The wife of the old business tycoon informs them that the tycoon is quite ill. This deal will be continued once he will recovered. Later on, we see the business tycoon's wife goes. Eddie notices that the girl's driver is the same one who has been following him around. Eddie is later seen in the police station. Eddie's lawyers informed him that he was no longer facing any charges. There is no evidence against him. Later, Eddie was again meeting his partner business tycoon, where he comes to know that the old business tycoon has gone into the coma. Eddie wanted to take the drugs by going into the bathroom, whose effect was getting slow on him. However, he was shocked when he saw that the cigarette's packet in which he had hidden the pills was empty. He meets a lady after exiting the bathroom, who hands him a parcel that was in the hands of his bodyguard. He hurries towards his house after seeing this. After seeing the news on television, he learns that his lawyer was joined by his enemies. The gangster, on the other hand, has arrived at his home, where he has taken the loan. It signifies that for him, situations have become critical from everyone's side. He doesn't have the drugs to think about what he should do next. As a result, he now wishes to end his life and enters the balcony. He was about to die when he suddenly remembered that he had hidden that tablet in his house's old tin. He wanted to take that tablet right away. And Eddie's enemy comes to him to kill him. Eddie, after watching them, becomes afraid. The drug that had dropped from his hands he gangster had injected him with. To frighten Eddie, he pulls out his strange weapons. After torturing Eddie, he wanted to take the drugs from him. But Eddie can't give him the drugs because he doesn't have any. His drugs have been taken from him. Before the man had a chance to injure Eddie, he kills him while holding his knife. As a result, the man fell to the ground, his blood spreading all over the place. Eddie starts drinking his blood after he realizes he has taken the drugs. So, might be the influence of the drugs might be present in his blood. He thinks that his mind will start working after taking that injected blood. It happens as a result of his ideas, and his mind begins to function. Later, gangsters were on their way to kill him. One of the men among them was half-blind. Eddie, with the help of Stitch, blinds him fully. Whereas, he has killed the other man with TV. Eddie was running, but he was being chased by someone else as well. After kicking, he has thrown him aside. Eddie's blinded victim had accidentally shot his own man. After then, the man began shooting blindly, in the hopes of hitting Eddie with one of the bullets. Eddie, on the other hand, holds that man and throws him out the window of the building by using a piano. We later see that old business tycoon, who has now passed away. He asks questions of the old business tycoon's driver. After my lawyer stole my medications and gave them to him. How did he die? It means that the old man for performing his tasks used these drugs, but here the mystery was different. That old man was the driver of the old man and always chased Eddie. Tells the lawyer after taking drugs from you hadn't given to him. Rather, he was using these drugs himself. Later, both of them go to the house of the lawyer. Eddie finally finds the drug. Many years have passed in the film, and we are once again seeing Eddie. Eddie was now working for a governor, and a man said to him that a big pharma company's owner wants to meet Eddie and he is waiting for him. After going to him, he comes to know that he is the same business tycoon once he used to work with. That business tycoon was telling him that since that he had quit from trade, we established a company to manufacture drugs. I learned about medicine after people's minds were actively working. He tells him that the drug that you also used or probably uses now. That man was telling Eddie, if he'll do his work, he'll give him plenty of drugs, but Eddie didn't accept his offer. And the business tycoon was saying that you're doing wrong to reject this offer. because no one else is making that drug except us. If you don't take the drugs from us, you'll not get them from anywhere. Eddie tells them that I've quit that drugs. He informs him that I've done a lot of research on that drugs. And, as a result of my research, I was able to reduce the side effects. As a result, I've reduced taking that drugs. Now, the time has come when I can leave these drugs. I'm not dependent on these drugs now. Because of Edie's research work, the effect of drugs taken before has been permanent on him. That's why his mind works effectively even without taking these drugs. The business tycoon doesn't trust Eddie, and to prove him, Eddie was performing an experiment. He says to look around the van that is coming. Its driver has been distracted. He'll hit with the next car, which means both will have an accident. It happens the same, and the business tycoon becomes shocked. Eddie later kept his hand on the business tycoon's chest. He was telling him that he was going to have a lot of heart problems. Later in the film, the man tells him, "I'm going to be your biggest enemy. And I won't abandon you." But Eddie wasn't afraid of him. Eddie informs him that it doesn't matter how far he'll move. "I'll always be one step ahead of you, and I'm still doing so." The film ends here. Thanks for watching.